We need it done this year.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Tim.
I'm Bob.
I'm Spencer. Dan.
And this is Board Game Rundown. Today, for our topic, we have a very special guest. We actually met Matt sort of online as a result of our Vigilante review because we talked about the insert. And Matt Healey is with us, and he is an insert designer. So, Matt, thank you for being here. How did you get into insert designs?
So the really short answer is a minor case of OCD.
Okay.
So I started board gaming, I don't know, pretty much my whole life, but then I got out of it while I was working, and I got back into the hobby pretty much more seriously about 6 years ago.
Okay.
And there was a game that I had called Adrenaline. I really like Adrenaline. I like the whole first-person shooter aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the box insert wasn't very good, and I didn't, it just seemed like the pieces were all over the place, and I previously was an engineer.
Right. Okay.
So I thought, I can do this, I can design one, but I didn't have access to a laser cutter. So I did the design, and there was a company at that point by the name of Daedalus.
Oh, yeah.
And
I like them.
I reached out to them and said, hey, if I pay you, can you laser cut this for me and I'll just glue it back together? And they were like, well, I'm not really sure, etc. But what they did say was, if you give us the IP, we'll laser cut you one.
Okay.
And I was like, sure. I mean, I'm not going to ever go into manufacturing and producing inserts, so that seemed fine. So based on that, I then started designing for them. That led me to design for Go7 Gaming for a while. And eventually I ended up working directly with the game designers.
Oh, sure.
So that's basically how I got there.
Now, did you, I mean, I'm just curious, were you with Daedalus until they stopped, or did you leave them? Okay. Yeah, because I really I actually preferred them. I have like a Gloomhaven Daedalus. Like, I like their stuff better. I mean, like, Broken Token's fine. Like, they had good stuff before they got themselves in trouble. Game Trays is really good. But yeah, I kind of had preferred Daedalus and then was bummed out that they decided to stop. But, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, my Caverna one is Daedalus, and I was very happy with
Is that like the folded space, like that kind of foam core?
No, it was like
it's wood.
It was
wood.
it was like
Okay.
a dark brown stained wood.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was stained 1/8-inch plywood, effectively.
Okay.
And I
he's the
know
guy
it's
to ask.
1/8-inch plywood because Go7 is 3mm MDF, and 3mm and 1/8-inch are not the same thickness. They're just slightly off.
Right.
Darn metric system.
Yeah. In all fairness, we should just switch, all right? Because I work on machinery, and like some of my machines, it requires 2 different sets of tools depending on where the part was made at. Let's just go to metric. It's so much easier.
Totally, let's go to metric. Oh, I've had game designers come back to me like, "You're American, so you want inches?" I'm like, "No, I'm an American. Give me millimeters, please."
I mean, I don't know. I kind of think the entire rest of the world should probably change to our way. That's
Sure, yeah. Deal with all the
Everybody
fractions
else.
and weirdness.
Everybody else is wrong.
They are.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. That is a perspective.
That's an opinion.
Yeah.
So Matt, since you are a gamer, what are some of your favorite games? I'm just curious for my own. Just as a gamer, I like to talk to people about games they like. So what are some of the games you like?
So I got to break it out into categories, probably starting with light and going up to heavy, right?
Perfectly acceptable.
And I'm going to start with 2, which almost never make a list. I love Quirkle. I love Splendor. The reason I love these 2 games is my wife is not a gamer, neither is my mom, but they are interested enough in those that I can play them with those two and still have fun doing it.
That affects my games a lot.
Yep.
If my wife or my in-laws can play it with me, or my kids even. So yes, I totally respect that.
Yeah, Splendor's
Right.
great. Like, I wish the app still was functional, but it's no longer
is the app-
supported. I just tried to play it the other day, and it was
that's
just
too bad.
it opens and shuts right away. Yeah,
Oh.
it's not supported anymore. Sad.
Okay, so that's your lighter weight.
So that's my lighter weight. And then I really like, when we get into the heavier weights, I really like things like Terraforming Mars, Terra Mystica, Clans of Caledonia, the whole concept of making whiskey, very important to me.
Should be.
In case you're curious, the 18 in my screen name is the age of my favorite scotch.
Okay, there we go.
So that's where that comes in. But I like those three. I've been having a lot of fun with Gloomhaven. We're about 80% of the way through it.
Nice.
So eagerly awaiting Frosthaven.
Nice.
Yes.
Because, well, we're going to be done with Gloomhaven likely before Frosthaven arrives.
Probably.
Right. Yeah, I mean, any game that's the size of a Gloomhaven or Frosthaven, I mean, that's an endeavor in itself to create. And then, not to mention any little snag, that can set back production so easily, right? So yes, totally. You're gonna have time.
Yeah.
You'll have time to finish it.
So you mentioned Terra Mystica, and then you mentioned Terraforming Mars. Have you tried Gaia Project?
I own Gaia Project because I did the dataless insert for it, but they never ended up releasing it. They sent me a prototype of it, but then they folded prior to that. And I have to do. I have to make one change. I miscalculated something by about 3 millimeters, but fortunately it was a prototype.
Sure.
And so I got to make one change to a tray. I have not played Gaia Project yet.
Okay.
So
I
they're
think
similar, but
they're very similar, but I think
different theme, streamlined.
Well, I mean, the same kind of concept, right? But instead of being like the religious track, there's actually like a tech tree instead,
right.
And then it's in space, and so it's better.
Terra Mystica's kind of in space. I mean, it's aliens.
Sure, but it's not like space. It's just an alien planet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I do. I have that one, but as I said, I haven't played it.
Right on.
One of the interesting things about doing the number of inserts that I do is I have lots of games coming in on a regular basis, and I just can't get them all played at this point.
Yep.
So that
we understand.
it's a great problem to have.
It is.
So here's a question for you then, because I'm curious, like as far as like the genesis of this goes, like how when you're creating an insert, do you just lay out all the components and go, how do I make all of this fit effectively, and like how easy setup? Like what's your process? I mean, you don't have to like walk step by step. I'm just curious, like where's your starting point? Do you start at the end and work backwards?
And I'm going to add to that slightly and ask if the game designers have any input saying, well, it would help the players if these pieces were put together and stuff, because like it's interesting to me to hear that like you say you designed an insert for Gaia Project and haven't played it, and so then I'm like, do the designers have input then? Because like for my Caverna one, all the pieces come out of the box and they set up in a way that all the components are organized around the table so that everyone can reach them and stuff. And if you haven't played it, would you think of that, right? Or would you have to rely on the design?
Absolutely, 100%. My first step is read the rule book.
Right.
So even if I haven't played the game, I read the rule book. And if they've got a how to play video, I watch the how to play video.
Oh, sure.
Because I like to see. And there's several kind of just macro approaches. So is this the kind of game that's going to lend itself to player wells? So all of one player's pieces sit in one well? Or is this the kind of game in which that's not really important because there's many more communal pieces than there are individual pieces? So I spend a lot of time thinking about it that way.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. And then, go on.
The next piece is then I look at the sizes of the components, because you got to start with the big pieces and figure out how those are going to fit. And once you're done with the big pieces, you can then start going into the smaller player wells and the trays and things along those lines. But it doesn't really, like, if you make the best insert possible and everything sets up quickly, but the board doesn't fit in the box, you have failed.
Right.
I have a question. Do you use any specific software like an AutoCAD or SolidWorks to do this?
I use SketchUp, the free 3D modeler from Trimble, mainly because the learning curve. I can use the other ones. I know the other ones, etc. But the output that I need to provide to a manufacturer is not complicated enough to merit going to a more full-featured tool. And this one's simple, and it does SketchUp does really well in what I call geometric shapes. It doesn't do well in kind of free-formy kind of things. So, but circles, squares, cubes, rectangles, all that kind of stuff, SketchUp does very well on.
Okay.
So, oh no, go on.
No, that's it.
Okay. So, is there like, have you ever where a company has come to you or designers come to you and said, "Hey, we've got this game," and you're like, "This box is too small"?
That's what I was gonna say. I assume that the process of the insert starts early on enough that you can give them a rough estimate of how big the box needs to be.
Oh yeah, no, that would be a great assumption. That would be wonderful. That would be great. I've had 2 of those in the 50 plus that I've designed.
Wow.
Like, hey, we've got this game called Frosthaven. It's going to come in the size of a. You familiar with Splendor? We're going to put it in that box.
Just make it fit.
Can you
make it
that
fit,
please?
Yeah. So okay. So I am currently working on a variety of inserts. 2 of them, people have come to me when the box is still up in the air. One of them, I think one of you, I can't remember who, was talking about in one of your roundups, and you mentioned their update, and it was Lawyer Up, and it was the box insert. You said the recent update is all about the box insert, and everything's going to fit into
that might have been Dan.
I've been
one
talking
box.
a lot about Lawyer Up, so I'm sure it was me.
Okay. Rock Manor came to me and basically said, I'm thinking about a Marvel Legendary size box, but I've got flexibility. How would you do this? And so I had a lot of free reign there to be able to figure out exactly how to set that up. And I think the design I came up with is actually going to work really well for that game.
Sure.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing I wanted to mention, Lawyer Up, was remember the problem that we all admit happened with Vigilante was those Cardwell dividers were not high enough?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, where my reach exceeded my grasp, and I fully admit that, I could have done a better job on that one. But if you look at the Lawyer Up box, the card dividers drop off at a pretty steep angle. And they do that so that it'll work well for both sleeved and unsleeved cards. I had tried in Vigilante to make it work in a new approach, and it failed. But I think this latest one will be much, much better.
Well, I think that's awesome, though, right? Because that's part of the process. Is you are, I mean, you've already done a bunch of games, but like there's always little things that you might encounter, right? That you're going to be able to learn and grow and like change. Like, oh, okay, we're going to pivot from this because this didn't work great. And I thought it was great, honestly, that you reached out, when we talked about the inserts, because it provided a good opportunity to have a conversation, even just like one-on-one with you, regarding like, how it works and what's going on. And because it's very easy for us, like, Dan's talking about inserts and it's like, Dan, we brought him in. Here he is to talk. Like, you're done crapping on this? Well, here's the guy who made it.
Right. Well, and the other thing that I'll mention is your feedback on the Vigilante insert was nothing that I hadn't kicked myself about. It was honest, it was direct, and it was fair. And so I remember your follow-up video was like, I responded, and it wasn't like all caps with 1,000 exclamation points. I'm like,
no, I thought it was great.
If you'd been unfair and if you bashed me for something stupid that wasn't there, I might have responded that way. But everything you said was legit, and so you're fair with me, I'll be fair with you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
cool.
no, 100%, 100%. And I love being able to have conversations, right? Even with designers, when we talk to, like, oh, we like this, we didn't like this. I mean, we try to be honest, right, with how we feel about things. We do talk about inserts because we all game a lot, and that is important.
It can make a difference in like setup time and stuff.
Right. Because Fantasy Flight, like their inserts are a joke. You get that like half which you then throw away, and then
everything is chucked in the box.
Loosely throw. You bag all your components, or maybe you've got like a couple of the little like plastic boxes.
Yeah, crayon boxes.
Like Agricola might lose some of its pain if it had an insert at all.
Nothing will make Agricola lose its pain. But no, I think it's awesome now though that the inserts, especially in the last 6 years, have really become more
of a focus point.
More of a focus point, right? Like a lot of Kickstarters, look at this great insert we have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like for this game.
Like the Dark Tower insert. And that led me to a question. Have you looked at a game and been inspired by its insert? For
I've stolen inspiration from lots of games on their inserts.
Sure.
Okay, yeah. Like
Straight up. Let's see. What was Mechs versus Minions had a really interesting
That's
way
one of the
pressing
best.
down on coins to pop things up.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And a little rings you can push the
Game
edge and
Trays had a really interesting insert on Brewcrafters in the way in which you were able to pull tokens out of a tray depending upon what your brewery was, what breweries, what beers you were able to make in that game. Mm-hmm. If you were to look at their top tray for the beers, and then you were to look at my solution for Age of Rome, you might notice they look somewhat similar in the approach, because they did a good job. And I do want to say something, though, just right now, just because I just brought up Game Trays. They are the Rolls Royce, and if you want the best insert, go to Game Trays. They are better than I am. No, straight up, they're better than I am. They think about it more. They've got more experience. They have better tools, etc.
And they've improved. I remember Game Trays when they first started coming out. Like we would see them at cons, and it was really just like cups,
containers
that might have like a raised up logo of the bit, that represents what goes in there. And they've gotten a lot more clever, you know, and as they've grown. They've done it really well.
They're going modular now with a lot of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of the trend now though too, right? Is a lot of it is more more modular, more specified to each game. Mm-hmm. So, Matt, do you ever crack open a game and go, I could have done this way better?
Yes. So I have this game from Fantasy Flight.
Okay, so yes. Any game from Fantasy Flight.
Well, yeah, but so I'm going to... Game Trays is the top of the line. Mm-hmm. But if you're a game designer, you have to understand Game Trays is very, very busy and very expensive.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm targeting and what I'm trying to be is, the Honda Civic of the insert world.
Hey, you can run forever.
Yeah, that's good.
Exactly. Now, if you gave me a choice, I didn't have to pay if I wanted a Civic or a Bentley. Man, I'm taking a Bentley because that's freaking awesome.
Right.
But if I have to pay for it, that Civic will get me there every single time.
That's right.
And so that's where I'm coming in on this. And so I do want to get into, you said like the inserts that are bad. I think that there's 4 ways that companies generally go. We've already talked about 2 of them. Game Trays and somebody like myself. Mm-hmm. The next tier down, which I think nobody should do, is the manufacturer-supplied insert. Mm-hmm. The reason for that is the manufacturers has one goal in mind. Package all the components in such a way that they won't get damaged in shipping and I don't have to replace anything.
Right, right.
They don't care about sleeves. They don't care about player setup. They don't care about anything.
Well, they don't care about everything once it's punched.
And the reason I say that the manufacturers are bad is they're not bad, but you're paying for the mold and for all the cost, and you're not getting the benefits that you could get.
Right, right.
And then the last approach is Fantasy Flight and others, which is no insert at all. And I would take that over a factory produce because theoretically they've lowered the cost of the game, as a result of that.
Yeah, I would take the that crap cardboard throw that away and happily, 3D print
get Plano or something.
Or buy from, when Daedalus was doing stuff, I'm going to get their insert.
Yeah.
Right? So, I totally get it.
Yeah, I'd rather have no insert than a really crappy one.
I mean,
well, just throw the crap one away. But like Matt said, it's a good point, is you're paying for it. And that's tough. That's an important thing to consider.
Yeah, I mean, in the ages before you could go out and buy these cool inserts for games, it was just plastic bags. That's it.
Yeah.
I had a question that was a bit of a topic jump, so we can come back to this later if there's more in depth you want to go on this, but it's just people have been throwing around words that have been leading to a question I've wanted to talk about, because you said modular was kind of like a trendy thing right now and stuff. And I wanted to ask you, being in the industry, this is something we talk about with board games all the time, right? The double score track, where you're scoring 2 things and you take the lower one, is kind of taking off right now. Or like the time action system, where the further back you are, the more actions you get, kind of thing. Like, these are trends that we love. And so I wanted to say, what is a a trend in your business that is kind of taking off that you are like, that is clever, that is ingenuitive, like that is changing what I do for the better, right? Like the biggest thing for me as the person who has to play it and not design it is anytime you look at an insert and they have pictures of what goes in each section on the sections, like it blows my mind that it took this long to do that because it's genius. And I was just wondering if, being in the business, if there's anything you can kind of think of like, oh, when we started doing this, that was a game changer.
And I'll never not do that again,
right?
Because that is something I will always do now. Because it's
okay. So I am oftentimes, standing on the table, metaphorically screaming that says, include a map of the insert in your game instructions or print it on the side of the box. Connor McGooey from Inside Up Games, if you look at City Builder, you open that up, and on the side is a map of where everything goes.
Like Tapestry.
Awesome. Machina Arcana, one of the inserts that I did that I was most proud of, I think we did a spectacular job on it. It has a map in the last page of the rule book that says, here's where everything goes.
Right.
Yeah, and so for like a game like Machina Arcana, I haven't played it, but Bob has it. And how hard was that insert, like an insert like that to do? Like, I mean, is that just like any other game where you just kind of go,
no,
I've got it, solved it?
No. So, all right. So here's an interesting way to think about it, right? So the bigger the box, the more work the insert is going to be because the more components I have to deal with. And if a one-tray design costs me 1 unit of time, a 2-tray design costs me 2.5, a 3-tray design costs me 4, and a 4-tray design probably costs me 6 units of time. Machina Arcana was a 4-tray design. There was a lot of stuff going on in there. There was 2 full expansions, sleeved cards, all of it. And we had to make a conscious decision. And there's some negative feedback, which I agree with. The standee places for Machina Arcana are not as good as they could have been. That was a conscious decision because I had 2 choices. I could make the standees work perfectly, or I could make sleeves work perfectly.
Oh, sure.
I made the conscious decision to sacrifice optimal standee placement for sleeves.
Gotcha.
And it looks like your standee placement is just in a well. Like, is that what you're talking about? Okay, yeah. I mean, it looks fine to me. I'm used to putting standees in wells.
First version. You didn't design the first. Did you do it for the second version?
I did 3rd edition.
3rd edition, yeah. So my edition doesn't have an insert.
Gotcha.
Okay. That's why
Dang,
I was a little confused.
I was waiting for Bob to start complaining about the
know.
insert. Like,
no,
come on, Bob.
I had the
trouble.
first one, and it's bags in a box.
Yeah, it's bags.
Sure.
So one of the things that the game designer, and I'm sorry, I'm an American. He's got a Slavic name, and I just don't want to butcher it.
We butcher those
all
the
time.
time.
All the time.
But he came to me because 2nd edition, he had quite a bit of lid lift in the initial packing, and a lot of the inserts suffered massive crush damage during shipping. And so that's always an interesting point, right, is because I get feedback about how come that after I assemble everything, there's a 1-inch gap between the top of the insert and the top of the, why can't you just put the boards on top and then have lid lift because I'll punch them out and throw them away? Well, that's great, except for the games that are on the bottom third of the pallet and have 600 pounds of game on top of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Crunch.
Right. You look at it, and he showed me photos, and all of it was crush damage. It was just because they were on the bottom third of the pallet.
Yeah.
We're talking millimeter thick plastic here. This stuff is not structural.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, see, and that's another thing, right, that you don't consider, right? Because we are, selfish like beings, right, as by nature, right? So we only consider the thing right in front of us.
This one box. It's the only one they shipped,
it's
obviously.
the only one all by itself, and not about how, that whole thing has to hold up, at whatever point on the pallet, as it's being shipped and whatever conditions it's being shipped, and all of that stuff, right?
Yep.
So there's sometimes reasons why it looks like they played rugby with your box. But
Sitting on a boat for
because
6
they
months.
did.
Yep. And then the other one that's always great is, well, you have all this extra space here. You could have used it for this. And then you start pointing out, I don't have extra space because I need this many millimeters in between each well or it can't be manufactured. I need this many millimeters here or it can't be manufactured. I need this or it can't be manufactured. And so once you put all those design constraints that y'all never see, and that's fine. You're not in this business, and that's totally fine. But once you start seeing all the constraints that we have to deal with,
right.
Wow, I would challenge you on a lot of them, to come up with a better design. And if you could, I would love it. I'd show me how you did it.
Right.
But factor in all the design constraints before you tell me what you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that old, if you don't know how to do it, you just critique it.
Right. And
we're all experts.
There we are.
At least in our own minds we are.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. So what is probably your favorite game that you've done an insert for? What are you most proud? I guess they could be two different things. What are you most proud of, and what was your favorite insert that you've had?
There's two inserts. So, okay, there's a couple here. So I love the insert I did for Clans of Caledonia. I love that game, but that insert was super tight. It was through Go 7. And we were measuring stuff down to the 0.5 millimeter to make sure it fit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was super tight. And I will admit that I came up with the initial concept, and then I forget the name of the guy at Go 7, but he really refined it. So he took my base and really brought it to the next level. So I don't know if I deserve the credit or he does. I was really pleased with the output.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The next one that I loved was Shiver Me Timbers, and that's the first vac form one I did. And that's actually gets back to how I got jumped from aftermarket into there. Michael posted on. I was backing the Kickstarter because I love pirate games. And he posted is like, I don't know what to do about the insert. I've never designed one of these. I don't know what to do. And I just posted, it's like I've designed for aftermarket. I'd be willing to help. He reached out. It was the first vac form one I did, and I thought I can do this.
Nice.
And so that got me in there.
So do you like doing the vacuum form one, or do you like doing the more modular or laser cut bits better?
Vac form's easier.
Yeah.
It's faster.
Sure.
Because I only have to design the 3D thing. I don't then have to pull the walls out and rotate them 90 degrees and find out where all the laser cut lines are going to go.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
But I will tell you, I'm very pleased that I have that skill set, because I have done 2 so far, and I'm looking at a 3rd in which the goal was sustainability, so they want no plastic.
Right. Oh, wow.
So I'm doing them in punchboard, and they will be assembled that way.
Interesting.
Cool.
I like that. I mean, there's the company that does it with like basically the foam core board. Who is it that does?
Folded space.
Yeah.
And Treacer likes to do everything carbon neutral, things like that.
Yep. So I've done one called Earth Rising, 20 years to save the planet, and there was no plastic. I almost did Earth from Inside Up, but he didn't know I designed in wood, so he outsourced it to somebody else. But that's okay. I can never say anything bad about Connor. He's such a great guy.
Sure.
And then I'm doing one or two more that haven't really told me that I can go public with their names just yet.
Fair.
But
Totally fair.
they're going to be punchboard as well.
Okay, right on. That'll be interesting to see, like if that's a new
trend.
A new trend is the punchboard one, because I haven't personally seen one that you punch out yet yourself.
Echoes.
I mean, other than like a folded space.
Echoes from AEG. ECOS, they have a couple things that you punch out, and it forms various types of token holders.
Nice.
Right, I've definitely seen that. Not like on the scale of an insert, but like to where you have something that you punch out. Oh man, I got a game here that because it was on a super sale, and you punch out of one of the boards and you build a bank. And that bank is where you keep your currency and stuff,
like
right?
Sagrada, you got the little tray.
Right, and then that's just stays in the box, right? That's now your bank. So you just think about that idea, but every component, right? Like it's
right.
So okay.
Right. And so imagine like a Daedalus or a Go 7 gaming insert, but replace wood with punchboard.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, right on. So do you prefer now doing, I guess, I don't know if freelance is the right word, but do you like working with this small game creators more than you did when you were a gun for hire,
I love the small guys.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the small guys. And I don't know if you, so when I said that, Game Trace is the Bentley and I'm a Civic, I don't know if you've gone to my website, but my fee schedule, if your Kickstarter raises under $500,000, my fee is an all-in gameplay edition of your game.
Nice.
Wow.
I like it.
That's it. Right? So when the Vigilante insert didn't come out exactly perfectly, and I did get some pushback from someone who's like, well, you clearly do this for a living. I'm like, I clearly don't do this for a living if you saw my fee schedule.
Sure. Well,
if you do over $500,000, you owe me $100 per 100,000 raised with a cap at 1,000. So Frosthaven would have been $1,000. Well, trust me, Game Trace charges a lot more than that, and they should.
Yeah.
So, I have catered myself to the Kickstarters that are between $50,000 and $200,000 in top line.
Yeah, right on. Right. That makes you very accessible though, because it's so hard. It's so hard as a small game designer, publisher, whatever. If you're independent, right? You don't have, a stable of artists. You don't have, people that we just source out our insert to this. We don't, we source out our miniature tooling to this, all of those things. So that's awesome that you provide, something that's super important and can really sway people's opinions of a game sometimes, because it'll be like, a lot of times it's like, oh, I really like this game. Insert's garbage, but, but I really like the game, so I just threw out the insert and did this and this. And now, you are now like, because sometimes a really good insert is something that we show off. Right. We're like, oh, no, they nailed the insert here, guys. Yep. Like, this is really good. And
so it could be a selling point.
Yeah. So I was at PAX Unplugged in Philly, right? It's the first convention I ever went to, and it was super fun. But I was there, and I ran into, I can't remember the name of the company, but the game is Kleos, and I had done their insert. And he said he sold 2 or 3 copies because people, after demoing it, were on the fence, and they said, show me the storage. He showed them the insert. They're like, that's perfect. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So there were a couple sales because they liked the way that thing's stored.
I mean, I've literally had people in my house, and we're looking at games, and I'm like, oh, you got to see the insert for this thing. This is amazing. Even if we're not going to play the game,
I've done
you
that.
pop it out, and you go, oh, check out this. They did a really good job. So
do you want the funny story from Connor to Price and how I ended up with Frosthaven?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I was going to ask you about Frosthaven. So yes, I want that story.
Okay, so Price Johnson, who's the COO or like the #1 employee after Isaac from Cephalofair, backed City Builder, which was Connor's game, and I did the insert for that. He got his copy. And then, according to what Connor told me, he punched everything out, put it in the insert, and then just spent half an hour to 45 minutes staring at the insert because he couldn't believe Connor had made such effective use of such a small space. So since they're friends, he called Connor and he was just like, we're friends, but I got to be honest, you're not this smart. How'd you do this? Right? Like, or something to that effect. I mean, I may be misquoting and I may hear about it later, but it was the basic gist.
Yeah.
And Connor was like, I didn't. I got a guy. So he referred Price to me. And then Connor calls me and says, Cephalofair is going to call you. And I was like, oh, God, Frosthaven. I don't want to do Frosthaven. It's big. They're going to be like all corporate-y and things like that. And I'm going to have like committee meetings and status reports and all those things that caused me to quit the tech industry. But it turns out that the people at Cephalofair are like the nicest people on the planet.
Fantastic.
And I called, Price called me. I took the phone call at my golf course just before I teed off. And I'm like, I got to go now because my tee time's coming up in about 5 minutes. But he was super reasonable. And I ended up doing, consulting with him on a bunch of the trays for that and designing a couple of them.
I would assume that you would want to do it just for the all-in pledge of Frosthaven.
Right. So here's the thing.
$5,000
They gave me Frosthaven was they gave me Frosthaven, Forgotten Circles, and Gloomhaven.
Wow. Nice.
So I have this. Oh, and they gave me Jaws of the Lion.
Yeah. That was it. Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good.
Wow.
Right on, man. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
see, like
and
for
then
us,
they gave me an exhibitor badge for PAX Unplugged, which was just awesome.
Well,
Nice.
yeah. Then you're walking around like a bigwig.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so
I'm
good.
from South Repair Games, so well, not really, but
I mean, but I know a guy.
Yeah.
You know, I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Yay, another bad reference. So far we have like Airplane, Liberty Mutual, and Holiday Inn Express. We're doing really well.
We'll keep them coming.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I mean, like for us, like, for example, right? We get excited about games. We reach out to a lot of small content creators like Reed, right, from Vigilante and stuff. And all we ask, we don't charge. We're not big or anything. And all we're like is like, hey, if your Kickstarter funds, we'd love to have a copy of the game so we can review it. You know, and so I love that because you're doing way more for them than what we do. And I love that that your model, like, I just feel like almost inspired. Like, I think that's awesome because you could command a higher price if you wanted. And the fact that you don't, and the fact that you like support the small designers, because that's one of the things we really like is that the smaller guys are more likely to take a chance on us, right? Send us a review copy. We can pass it along, even if we got to mail it back off. But, we're trying to get more eyes on a project that we think is cool, or is exciting. And the fact that you are putting in your support for projects that you think are cool, that you're excited about, I love it. I love it. I think that's awesome.
So
Go ahead.
Since you have such a good price point and you have so many people, do you have like a waiting list?
So surprisingly not actually, although I'm getting busier over the last few months. I'm getting far more selective of who I reach out to. So generally I use people like yourself and then Chris from Legion of Games who does reviews. Love that guy.
I like his channel.
Yeah. In terms of upcoming Kickstarters, and then I'll choose. And in the last 6 months, I've become, let's just say, a lot more selective about who I'm willing to reach out to say, hey, do you need an insert?
Sure.
Because once you do Frosthaven, your name becomes a little more known.
Yeah, that's an awesome project, too. That is a really nice little thing on your resume,
Yeah, it's
right?
on your resume, yep.
Yeah, that's a good one on the CV.
Yeah. Definitely. Is there anything else? I'm not going to take up too much more of your time, but is there anything else you really wanted to like nail down or talk about or address? Because I'd hate to miss anything. Not that we couldn't have you on again, but just anything else you're excited about or really want to talk about?
I think we've covered pretty much everything. I think we've covered all the important topics, right? I mean, design approach, etc. And then I think the other thing that you guys pointed out, which I think is very important, is to understand that this is a very evolving space right now because more and more games are coming with better and better inserts. And so we're really, as insert designers, we're kind of refining our craft at this point. So I would say to you, in a year from now, I'll look back at the designs I did now and say, here are the things I could have done better.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. But again, that to me is the mark of someone who cares and is trying to improve, right? Like to ever say I couldn't get any better than I'm currently doing is foolish.
Yeah, it's also wrong.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I play and I watch a lot of golf and things like that. And I remember listening to interviews by people, by Tiger and by the other greats, and they would win a tournament and they would say, yeah, but you want to know, my sand game isn't very good. You just won the U.S. Open. Yeah, but I could have gotten out of the traps a little better.
Right. Or not even been in them.
Right, exactly. But the reality is they just won. And they're already trying to figure out what they did wrong.
Yeah, sharpen it, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Well, I think it's awesome, and I don't care that we I'm glad we actually commented on the Vigilante insert the way that we did. Because
open up this dialogue.
Yeah, because to learn about an aspect of game design, right? Because a lot of the times, right, the people we talk to are actually the designers, or even we've had artists on, and stuff. But to reach in and hit like a different part of the game industry, right? Like to get to talk to somebody, for a completely different aspect of the game that you may never even consider, right? Is awesome. It was a really good opportunity, and I'm really glad that you reached out, and commented on the video, in the way you did. I'm glad we were fair. I'm glad you thought we were being fair, because we do try to be honest, and we point out things we love. We try to point out things we don't love,
So speaking of things,
honesty is never a problem. It's always this sucks, and let me tell you why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go on, Bob.
Okay, so one of the things I was going to bring up, coin slots, right? So a lot of times you have like coins and cardboard punch outs, and designers will put like a little cylinder or a half cylinder where they put all the little coins and cardboard chits lined up in there, and then you're trying to pull them out, and you grab a bunch of them, and they flip out of your fingers, and they go flying everywhere.
Lords of Waterdeep.
Yeah, that's terrible. And
so Matt, why are you terrible?
Why are you
for doing
terrible?
That?
No. I just wanted to say like how difficult is it to convince then the board game company to, instead of doing like a well like that, to just do like a game trace type of thing where you've got like a cup, right? And so like all the coins or all those little cardboard chips go in a little cup, and there's a little slot for the cup that goes in, and you can pull it out. You open it up. It's got two halves. You can split them between the two halves. Put them out on the board.
Why are you telling him how to design it?
I'm not
telling.
I'm just asking how.
So we've just slammed right into one of the design constraints, head on.
Okay.
You have to keep in mind that every time you look at a different kind of a mold, then you're looking at another $1,000 to $1,500 just to create the mold.
Dang. Okay.
That's if you're going with aluminum, and that's if you're selling more than about 1,000 copies of the game.
Okay.
So oftentimes putting that circular well that they all line up in, I know because I do it all the time. I do it on a lot of my inserts. And the reason I do it is because it is the most efficient way to use the amount of money that we have available to us.
Okay.
Interesting.
And probably space as well.
Yes, and so if I made generic cups for everything, then they'd have to sit in there. You'd have to pull them out, etc. I get it. If you look at a game I did like Dollars to Donuts, there's a big, long thing. And pulling those out is annoying. And I admit it's annoying. But in terms of... So if you think of a game that does, say, $75,000 on Kickstarter, that's a decent amount, right? Probably it'll fund. I know a lot of designers would be ecstatic with $75,000. Now all of a sudden you want them to spend an extra $1,500 for a second mold
cup.
Yeah, Bob, you want to be Steven Spielberg, but you're actually Roger Corman.
Sure.
Is the issue.
I guess I'm kind of hoping that like maybe one of those companies has like a mold already that they can just build. Oh, that mold will fit. I'll just design a spot in this thing.
Nothing.
There we go.
Let me stop you right now. I have tons of designs, and people tell me like, well, you just be able to grab a previous design and modify it. Oh, that's cute that you think that that's possible. No, it's not going to. Even when you look at game trays, when they did their X-trays kind of things, those people buy them, but they don't throw them in the box because they don't fit. Nothing fits. And then even so, like, and if I was going to get something generic, it would be for poker-sized cards. But you point to 2 games on your shelf right now that have the same number of cards.
Right.
Nope.
It'd be the same copy of the game.
No, doesn't count.
Good try.
So the problem is I would love to be able to do this, and that was one of the reasons that working with Frosthaven was so much easier, but also so much more fun, but also a little bit more difficult because of the size of it, was because they're making like hundreds of thousands of copies of Frosthaven. The factory would just produce samples of each tray for them for free.
Right.
Nice.
You can't do that if you're doing 50,000 in top line.
Yeah, low runs.
So I'm going to derail, but stay on Frosthaven for a second. So is the Frosthaven box going to be the same size as the Gloomhaven box?
Pretty much, yeah.
No, it's bigger.
Whoa! Wow. I'm saying the pictures I saw it was pretty comparable. But yeah, I guess it was a little bit
I'm not going to have room on my shelving unit.
I know.
No, it's bigger. And by the way, its weight, the weight of the game is, I think, coming in at a little over 31.5 pounds.
Oh my gosh!
Yep.
That's like my son.
My Frosthaven and Gloomhaven will not be on the same shelf because it will just.
Well, that shelf will not exist.
Right, exactly. And that was interesting, right? Because I got some pushback on that because my insert for Frosthaven will not accommodate sleeves for all of the cards.
Oh,
it will likely accommodate sleeves for all the cards that you are currently playing. So if you're playing, for example, my favorite character, the Crag card, you can probably sleeve all of those cards and it will fit. But there are so many cards that you cannot sleeve all of them. And the pushback was, well, if Folded Space can do it, how come you can't? And the answer is, I've got 27 punch boards, which is 5.5 centimeters of space I'm not allowed to use.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So I'm gonna leave you with one thing. I don't expect an answer, and then we will let you go. But this has been really awesome, and I appreciate your time. Please reach out to Peterson Games and have them design an insert for Cthulhu Wars and Planet Apocalypse, because they are two gigantic space eaters that I have, and nothing fits in anything.
Yeah.
Once you've opened it up, it is a Pandora's box. There is no getting
Almost
it back
literally.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to reach out to Peterson Games. I got a little bit burned by Hyperspace and Dinosaur and all the delays, and I'm questioning their financial stability based on some of the posts that Arthur put out.
It's a thing. I get it. It's a thing.
It's a thing, and I was a little vocal about in the feedback. So even if I did reach out, I'm not sure I'd be well received.
They may not. Whatever. I had to try. But anyway,
I get it. But that's I think we said in the pre-interviews, nothing is off. Nothing is off limits, and nothing is. And I will tell you, I'm probably not going to be greeted with open arms over there.
It happens. I'm sure there's people that don't love us, so I get it.
What?
Well, basically everybody at this table.
I don't love us. Yeah.
But Matt, this has been awesome. This has been eye-opening. I really appreciate your candor and you taking the time to be here with us. I hope we can in a year. We can revisit, or when you've got another big project, or if something comes up, man, and you're like, hey, I think this might be interesting. I mean, reach out, because I think it would be a lot of fun to have you back on and have another conversation, because there's so much that you have given us that I just need to digest and think about, and like when I open up a game, the next time I open up a game, I'm going to look at the insert differently. So yes, I appreciate that a lot, man.
That's awesome. I've had a great time talking to y'all. And I would come back on this at any point, even if you're like, look, I saw that you're doing the insert for insert game here. Happy to jump on for a couple minutes and just say, hey, this is what I was thinking. This is why I did it. And I'm going to be honest about what I did well and what I didn't.
Yeah, no, I love it. Great. I love it. I think that's great. And, the best conversations and my favorite people to talk to are people that I can just be myself and completely honest.
Candid.
And just 100% candid. And so that's great, man. I really appreciate it.
All right. Sounds good. Well, you guys have a great rest of your day.
You too, Matt. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank
you,
sir.
All right. Cheers. Bye.
Right. Bye.
All right, guys. That was our interview with Matt Healey, insert designer. That was awesome.
That was
cool.
That was
a
little peek behind the curtain kind of thing.
Just so you know, Bob.
Yeah.
No.
What?
It's not.
What?
Not possible.
Okay, fine.
Whatever you ask.
Yeah.
Can't we do this?
No. Okay, well.
My favorite thing. My favorite thing ever. Okay, guys, so that was our topic for the week. Always follow us on Discord, Facebook, do all the likes and whatnot.
Subscribe, ringing bells, all that kind of stuff.
All that stuff. Yeah. We will provide a link to Matt's website in the comments below.
Yep, and I sent a link to the website so that hopefully we can have some pictures of the inserts he's talking about on screen while we're talking about him. But depending, whether it works out or not, the link to everything we talked about is in the description. All the pictures of all the inserts that we were talking about.
Yeah. Great. All right, guys. For the Board Game Rundown, I've been Tim.
I was Bob.
I was Spencer.
Dan.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for checking out the Board Game Rundown. If you like what you saw, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Share our videos on social media and spread the word. We publish new content weekly, including reviews, unboxing, and Let's Plays. And as always, thanks for watching.